Hi there. There we go. Good evening.
Mckyla,
Good
how are
evening.
you?
Good. How are
I
you?
am trying to sort out my camera because when I did this, it was just like a full screen. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
How are you?
Good. How are you? We're finally doing the live.
I'm
I'm so happy.
great.
I'm so happy to see that we're
I'm so
finally
happy
doing the live.
myself. I'm happy to
Mhm.
see you. I'm seeing a ring there. There's something you want to share with me?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, no, it's coming. I'm
Mhm.
crossing fingers for you.
But thank you for making time for us and sitting down to chat. We appreciate it. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no, my pleasure. Anytime, any day, just a phone call away. I'm happy about the conversation that you want to have. Like, I'm quite very excited
Mhm.
about it. I think it's long, and we've been waiting for it for a very long time, and I'm glad that it's here.
Me
Yeah,
too.
quite a very interesting topic, I must say.
Very interesting. I think we mostly just focused on journalism on the page. So this is cool to like incorporate the different branches of areas that journalism
Mm.
reaches and that we interact with as journalists, depending on obviously what field you operate in. But
Yeah.
very excited. Hi guys. Hi everyone that's um I'm Mckyla Nortje, a feature journalist and multimedia journalist in general. I used to work for Engineering Magazine, and that's how I met Thapelo, because we usually used to work together. He used to provide me with PR and content, not content, like contacts for features that I would write on or leads for features that I was working on. So we had our fair share of clients, topics that we covered, a range of topics, and trying to get people to sit down for interviews. We had our fair share of
Yeah.
trying to manage that space. But yeah, you can tell us a little bit about your field of expertise and why we talking to you specifically.
Oh, okay, cool. Great.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. My name is Thapelo Phukuje. I've been working with Mckyla when I was still doing PR for industrial clients, and I was still with my previous agency. So I used to really provide, you really say, not content, but at times it is content from a PR point of view, from press releases and all of that.
True.
But I used to pitch stories, angles, and just take care of a few clients in industrial, specifically looking at like things in mining, engineering, and so forth. So
Yeah.
Mckyla was my go-to person. And I think as a PR person, the importance of what I used to do is create we had a lovely working relationship with Mckyla, so I always knew how to place a story that place my client in an angle that Mckyla likes, so that she can be able to write a few stories for me. But since then, continuously moving into different industries.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing PR for FMCG, which is fast moving goods, which is your bread, milk, and so forth, and then moved into industrial PR as well. And now I'm handling, I don't want to say PR, but marketing for a primary school in Cape Town.
Marketing. I've seen. I
Yeah.
see. I saw you guys at a conference recently about something. I saw on your status. What was that
Yes, let
about?
me show you. We actually did, it was the SACSA conference. So SACSA
Okay.
means South
Oh,
African Girls Schools
oh,
Association. So this is all the girls' schools in South Africa, really sitting down with the leaders, just having a discussion, a conference about
yeah,
like um, where to in terms of like education in South Africa and so
yeah.
forth. Influence in that space, because I think a girl child is so important, especially if you are in a same-sex school. So
Cool.
it's really leaders just having conversations and discussions about like how they can contribute and accelerate a girl child in their schools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Did you do the merch for it? Did you do the merchandising for it?
Did I do that?
Did you do the
Oh,
merchandising, the bottles for it?
no, no, no. So my
Okay.
job was to just PR the whole thing, but like my team actually did
Mhm.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. my job was to get the speakers, was to make sure that we get like some media coverage, speak to your Mckyla there, you know, and say, Mckyla, would you be keen to covering something like this? You know, we've got great speakers, great leaders in South Africa. You know, girls' education is very important, I must say. Yeah.
And then how often do you guys have the conference like that? Is it a once a year event?
Oh, so it's an annual thing.
Okay.
But now we've started to do it physically due to COVID, you know, since the restriction have been actually a little bit, I don't want to say we're on level 1 or something. Yeah, but now we can have events and so forth. So we've started going back to doing physical conference, which is quite nice to see people getting together, going back to events, engaging with each other. Just like sharing knowledge and skills about yeah.
So let's go into it. How would you define PR, or how would you define public relations? Because you mentioned how you operated in different spaces and in different fields of PR, but in essence, I feel like the meaning and the type of work that you do is basically the same. So can you just give us like a brief synopsis of what is public relations?
So if you Google or you go into an Oxford dictionary, it will give you a completely different definition to what I'm about to give you. Just so before people in the PR space say I'm giving the wrong definition. In essence, Google or Oxford will tell you about taking care of the image of a brand, of a whether a person and so forth. But then how PR is defined today, or with the work that we're doing, it actually somehow it's starting to merge with the word marketing, which a whole lot of people will disagree with me. But then when you do PR, a whole lot of people will disagree with me and tell you that PR is not marketing, PR is not sales. I know a lot of times we used to have that conversation about like, my job is not to sell anything, you know what I mean? My job is to just put the brand out there and make sure their good image is well taken care of, which at some point, you know, it gets to a point where your PR activities lead to sales, you know? But then, so what PR is today is completely different to what the dictionary is speaking about or what you're learning at school. From a varsity point of view, you go major in marketing. When you do PR, you major in marketing, you major in comms, you major in media relations. But then when you come and do PR, you then understand and realize that like today, in today's world, it's kind of like digital marketing. Like you do PR, you need to understand what's happening in the digital space, whether social media, whether webinars and so forth, and you need to understand in terms of marketing, how does my PR activity come into like sales and so forth, and advertising and so forth, and all of those things work together. But really, the definition of PR today and what you do as a PR practitioner changes completely from what you read on a dictionary versus when you do the actual work.
And then how would you say that then journalism and PR, how did it merge, or how did it complement each other then? And would you say it's the same now, since you're like moving into a new phase or new space of PR merging with certain other factors that I feel like is also important for journalism, obviously depending on what field you operate in. But how would you say they complement each other then and now?
Well, that topic, Mckyla, I think it's quite very key to look at what's happening today. So the thing is, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, PR specialist. I said to him, why is it that the media during COVID times and during COVID times and even now where news are very hot and very topical, COVID was topical, we needed more news, but then the print publications were closing down. Journalists were being retrenched.
Getting retrenched.
PR agencies were now hiring journalists to be PR people. You know what I mean? And I said, like, where's the sense in this? And he said to me, you know what's happening, Thapelo? The thing is, right now we're at the state where advertisers are not advertising, and journalists, you know, publications needs to have money to pay journalists, and to pay journalists you need ads. You know what I mean?
Because
and
at the end of
the two industries, Yeah, yeah, yeah.
publication process for.
You
Yeah.
could have the most beautiful. That's why, like, I think a whole lot of journalists right now, they focus on very controversial issues, trying to make sure there's readers and all of those things. But then when you see the two industries and how they, like, how things are today and how they're merging and all of that, I mean, I think journalists needs to come to a point where they realize and understand that traditional media is not the only way to convey a message, to write a story. You know, there's the likes of social media. I think podcasts are doing so well as well, and Instagram Live. Like now,
That's true.
we're just
Social
telling
media
a
platform.
story and what we're
That's
doing. You know what I mean? And we just need to be finding ways into moving into that space. You know, and journalists are now becoming influencers. Quite funny. It's like there's journalists that you know from ENCA. They're just famous. They just like put out their stories. After writing their stories, it's all over Twitter, and you're like, okay, no, this person is known to be a good journalist and all of that. And you look at what's happening right now. I mean, ENCA, the senior news anchor just resigned to go join a PR agency.
I saw
You know what I mean?
that.
And you,
On face, I think
that's just what's happening in. Yeah, that's what's happening in the PR and journalists. The two industries are coming together because it's very important as a PR person to know how to write, because you also need to know how to convey a message. You know, there's no way that we could just depend on Mckyla to do the writing, but then I need to know how to write a piece as well. Yeah, from a press release point of view.
So would you then say the space will close up in a couple of years? Sorry, where journalism, marketing, public relations, even when you manage like social media and things like that, you need to have a certain understanding of how these platforms work and how you can best use these platforms to further push the message of the company that you're working for, or attract the right people for the content that you're putting out there. So would you then say that the gap will close in a couple of years in terms of varsities and universities and colleges forming more degrees or programs that have more of each subject, so to say, in it?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Mckyla, I must say. I think not even in a couple of years, I think varsities and curriculums in university should be tackling that right now as we speak right now. Because this thing of either doing comms, doing marketing and doing PR or doing journalism, and at the end of the day, when you come to practice or when you've got your degree and all of that, and when you come into the workspace, you get there, you are a marketing manager, but you studied journalism. You're a comms manager and all of that.
That
you
in
know
my
what
previous
I mean?
working
I
place,
think we need to. You see what I'm talking about? If I tell you my journey to what I'm doing today, like literally, I'm a marketing person, I'm an ads person, I'm a social media person, I'm a journalist. I write at times. You know what I mean? You wear all the hats, and we need to get to a space where now, because there is this shift that's happening, and we can't run away from it. You know, it's always going to be happening, and regardless of whatever career you're going into, there will always be a shift, and there's this shift happening between different. I don't want to. I don't know if I should call them industries, but that's just happening. In PR, marketing, journalism, and so forth, they're just becoming this big one, you know. And where else, instead of hiring 10 people, I'm hiring one person to do all of those things. Yeah.
I think it just makes the job so much more stressful. But at the same time, it helps to be able to wear all these different caps so that you're more adaptable in different workspaces. So it's a bonus and a negative, I would say, doing this merging thing. And then would you then say the reach that journalists and the reach that public relation officers try to get with the message that they put out is the same? Would you then say, since they're merging into sort of the same space, would you say their goals of the content that they put out is the same in terms of the one serving the public and the one more serving the company that they representing, so to say? Are we back? Can you hear me?
Mckyla, I can't hear you. Remember, I'm in South Africa and the network is really bad. It's really bad.
The network is horrible by us as well. And I don't know what, let's see if
No way.
Yes, you would think that they would be
Okay,
like,
cool.
oh, but
Are you guys not on 5G already?
we are certain phones. Oh, I can see I'm lagging. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Let's try that again.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to hear now, since the spaces are merging, do you think it will be a problem for, and since journalism and public relation officers have a different goal or outcome that they're trying to achieve in terms of who they're trying to serve, do you think that's something that will change, or do you think that's something that will depend on what specific news you're covering or what specific space you operate in public relations?
I mean, to be a PR professional and to be a journalist, those are two different job functions, right?
Yes.
The media, you guys have like freedom of speech. Journalists,
Yes.
right? They've got
Yes.
freedom of speech. Me, I'm just concerned about my brand, my clients, and how I just want whatever content before the right target audience, right? And I don't think it will be much of a stressful shift in the industry, but I do think, however, there is still a need and the importance of separating those two things. We still need journalists. We still
Yes.
need PR people. You know what I mean? And we that's where things like your propaganda comes in, where you see like
Yes.
some journalists when they write about like a specific individual or brand, it's like a personal touch and all of those things, and it's no longer like freedom of speech or writing for your audience, but it's like now brands are buying journalists. Certain individuals are buying journalists, and the journalists now just write stories for the sake of it, and people can be able to see it now. Because
Compromising
I do think, yeah, but let me tell you what I think. I
okay.
think we're moving into a space and a time where authenticness sells more than anything, right?
Okay.
Because if you look at the news and what's been said out there, if you selling, people now are able to pick up when a journalist is writing
Fluff.
like propaganda news. You know what I mean? And you can see like, nah, this journalist, when every time when something in the ANC happens, this one is writing is
They
writing
leaning
about it. But
towards
every time when
specific.
something,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are now able to see it. They're now able to see whether they're real or not, you know. But I do think that the two industries, we still need them. Both journalists are very important. PR practitioners are very important, even though we're merging. I just think it's time for journalists now to look at other opportunities and other spaces to say, what else can we do instead of writing for print magazines? You know, there's online, there's blogging, there's social media, and so forth. You can still become a journalist from all of those points that I'm saying. And I think because in the journalist space, a lot of you guys I see it's freelancers, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where
Especially these days
most now,
with these
yeah.
apartments are being retrenched and wearing different hats. You're just trying to find here and there bits and pieces for you to use your skills and talents. It's true.
Yeah. So that's when now I'm thinking journalists are going to become their own employers. They are going to become influencers as well. They're going to become their own publications, you know. So now I'm going to say, if I need to convey a message to certain clients, I'm going to speak to Mckyla, because Mckyla on Twitter, she's known for
The
controversial
specific.
issues or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, or specific beat, whether it be business or whatever. Now,
It's true.
instead of going to business day, I'm coming to Mckyla because Mckyla's got the right numbers for me. So that's where the whole world is going. Not the whole world, but let me just speak specifically about South Africa and what I've been exposed to personally.
That is very true. And it's like you mentioned earlier where you said about the podcast, and we know social media and these spaces are what people are leaning more towards, because like you said, they have a specific target audience already with their following, and then people that know that they do this specific beat. So it's easy to then change into podcasting or change into a YouTube channel or a sit down conversation where you can invite people to spaces that also speaks about that specific beat that you speak about or focus on, and you can create that community already without having to call in another company to manage these spaces. That is true. We do see that. Do you think that compromises the value of what the people are speaking about in any way?
Do I think it compromises the will? Say that again, sorry.
Do you think people operating in spaces like that, isolated from a bigger company or just representing themselves to this group of people that share interests, do you think that compromises the integrity of it, since it's their platform and their following, do you think they stay on the right path of speaking the truth and not trying to say things
I
in a
think
way more appealing to their brand, so to say?
I mean, like it's quite different from having to be part of a media group and so forth. And they could be pushing their own agenda if you part of whatever media group, you know what I mean? And with you having your own platform, you've got your own freedom of speech. You can say what you want to say, how you want to say, without like a specific tone and setting of writing from an editor point of view, because editor needs to approve whatever that goes out, you know. So you are your own editor. So I think it's a big shift. And I'm telling you right now, most of the news that I find out before I even switch on TV or read on newspaper, it's already on Twitter. It's already on the streets already, you know. So, so if you look at things like your traditional media, your TV, your radio, your print, they're reporting on things that already have been reported on Twitter. And sometimes they're even saying, this is what's trending on Twitter.
Yes.
This is what whoever said on Twitter. So now they're even reporting from Twitter, you know what I mean?
Spaces,
so yeah, so I think freedom of speech is it's a big thing, you know. I mean, you want to get into, sometimes you get into a space as a journalist and you write a story, but you can feel that this is not what you've researched as a journalist, and this is not what you want. But if your editor says we're going this angle, we're going that angle. So yeah, it does compromise on like your freedom of speech and all of those things, because you're representing a brand, and a brand has a certain voice, has a certain audience, and all of those things. But then as an individual, it's a completely different story. You have your own freedom of speech, and in no way is it altered or limited, if I can use those words. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say are some of the misconceptions around public relations specifically?
Oh wow, I like that question, and I think we can argue about it. I think one is a lot of people think PR practitioners are spin doctors. Number two, I think the biggest lie. Let me tell you, the biggest lie, they often say to you, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Listen, Mckyla, call Oscar Pistorius, ask him about that. Like, there is bad publicity. There is. And certain people think that.
Not to speak on the topic itself,
even
but
with
just how with Amber Heard and how the media specifically
you see?
has created that sort of image, where the publicity was not good.
Exactly, because there's a whole lot of like misconception. Like, as long as they talk about me, no, I'm not worried. It's giving me mileage. But like, I'm telling you right now that there is such thing as bad publicity, and it will mess up your image, your brand, and even your bread. You know. And then what was the other one that I wanted to mention? What did I speak about? Such thing as bad publicity and spin doctors. Oh, some companies or brand think you only need PR when there's a crisis.
Oh,
you know?
okay. To put outside. So that's where we call them in.
Yeah, when there's a crisis, that's where you call like PR people. And and I think that is that. And now you're even seeing attorneys and lawyers writing statements, going for media interviews, and I'm like, hey, dude, now you're becoming the PR person, you know. But like
multiple hats
a whole lot of changes, multiple hats again. Yeah. What do you think the misconceptions are for journalists?
That we out to get someone, or you trying to prove a point with your stories. Again, this is focusing on like hard news and like investigative journalism. They always feel like they're trying to catch someone, or they're trying to quote someone so that you can use it as and that's not the case. It's generally just coming back down to reporting the facts. And I think that's where, even with the company that I previously worked for, you'll speak to clients and you'll sit down for interviews and things, and then they have a certain idea of how they want the interview to be presented and how they want the write-up to be from the interview, but they don't say the right things. So when they see it on print after you wrote it, they're like, yeah, but I don't like how it looks. So then now it looks like it's the journalist trying to get to a point, but it's just them not conveying the message properly and not having the right words to articulate what they're trying to say. So when they see it, they don't like how it looks. So they have a misconception that journalists are out for that one misquote or that one slip up that they have, and it's not like that. And I think for journalism, misconception would be that it's the same across the board for whatever journalism you do, and that's not the case. If you do hard news as opposed to like a feature writer, what I did, it's all different things. The one is more immediate news, like you were saying, where they report from Twitter, or they report from social media, whatever. That's more immediate. But when you have like your feature writing spaces and other publication that's like weekly or so, the reporting is a little bit, I don't want to say delayed, but it's not immediate. It's not about what's happening now. It's more about how is it affecting the situation, or how is it affecting the industry. No, I saw that question.
Yeah.
Oh, there
I
we
think
go. Teresa saying that
no,
the journalists are trying to pull third degree moves on them. Yes. That is what a lot of people are saying about journalism. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell me, Mckyla, so if you're writing a story and you can see this does not sound right, and this is like what client said or whoever you interview said, you know, like, do you just continue writing about it, or what? Like, even if you feel like this is like shooting yourself there in the foot, if I could use that word.
It depends on the media house that you're in. If it's something that relates to their brand, let's say it was an interview about them speaking about a new thing that they're launching or whatever, you're going to report it as they say. It does not matter how you might feel about it, or if whatever's coming from it. At the end of the day, you're just reporting. You're not trying to get out someone. You're not trying to preserve their image. You're not trying to whatever. But then again, depending on the relationship with the media house and the client, your editor might pull the article because they feel like it doesn't represent both companies well enough. So then they'll pull the article. But if they feel like it's still in line with the editorial code and it's still in line with the business outlook of the media house, they'll keep it. So at the end of the day, it depends on the editors, because you'll go to your editor and be like, hey, this is the pitch, this is what they were saying, this is how I'm feeling, is this something that we can move forward on, or whatever. So there will be a lot of discussion before it actually comes out.
Yeah. Okay, I hear you. Okay.
I little miss working in the space again, and like speaking to clients and like sitting down, but only a little, not that much, but I do miss having like an editor and arguing about things. So
yeah, I must say thank you to you, because I've learned how to interview people now. In my podcast, because I used to sit and watch you interview my clients, you know. Now I've learned the skill from you, and that speaks about the importance of a relationship between PR people and journalists.
100%. You can tell us more about your podcast. I always see you posting about it. What is the general conversation about it, or does it depend on what episode you're doing?
Oh, okay. So there's actually two podcasts that I run. One is for Rustenbeckel's Junior School. This is specifically on education.
Okay.
Specifically on education, because this is something that I do as a marketing manager for Rustenbeckel's Junior School. So we interview MEC of Education in Western Cape. We speak about topics that are related in primary schools in the education space. Music teachers, the importance of character development versus academics, you know, because most of the time you'd find a student or a learner being excelling in maths, and the other one not interested in maths but excelling in music, and those are two different students, and not that like the person is bad or anything like that. So it's really education based and focused. And one of the other podcasts, which I haven't done in a long time, I started during lockdown.
Okay.
This is where I
found you were one of those.
This is where I
people. I see.
So during lockdown, I interviewed people in the PR space and the marketing space, and really the focus is to speak to unemployed graduates trying to break through into the industry. You know, about like how the journey has been. You know, really, I'm not like how the journey has been, how the PR industry, the marketing industry is what opportunities are there. We're just speaking about their journey. You know, we spoke to I don't know, Ilan. What's Ilan's name? I forgot, but he was a journalist at Crema Media. Solomon, yes, Solomon.
Yeah. There we go.
We had a chat with him, and he just shared his journey. You know, yeah, we just shared his journey. So every now and then, I do have podcasts with people in the space that I'm in, and then they just speak about their journey and how unemployed graduates can actually. There we go, Solomon. Someone commented. Yeah, and how
He's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
soul.
How they can break into the industry.
Mm.
Yeah,
And it's like you were saying earlier, where you can be in theory based in university or college or wherever that you get your education from, but actually getting into the newsroom or getting into the office spaces, it's totally different. It's not what you learned. You can have your base knowledge of what it is, but it's a different
yeah,
ballgame. It's a different field. You need someone
yeah,
like yourself to navigate it for someone else, or give them some tips about how to get into the industry. Is there
yeah.
any specific tips that you can think of now for someone that's starting out in the public relations space that you feel like they should know going into it?
Yeah, I think what's important, I think for PR people, like I say this a lot, Mckyla,
Mm,
is if you are going into the PR space, be able to create relationships.
mm,
Create relationships
mm.
because that will
Agree.
work for you.
Mm-hmm,
Create relationships so much and
mm-hmm,
read, read,
mm,
read, 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 read. You need to be able to understand what sets you apart from everyone in the room. And also, I think when you go into PR, when you go into any career, you need to have a
mm.
vision for yourself and know why you're going into it, and always
Strong word, vision.
understand the why. You know what I
Mm-hmm,
mean? Always
mm-hmm,
understand the why, read and create relationships. I tell you right now that like I was doing PR for industrial clients, but
mm,
quite very funny. I spent my time uh, reading newspapers, watching news, and
mm.
doing all of those
Into
things so
this.
that I can place them for on tier one media or
Mm,
mainstream media, not only engineering news. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? So that I
mm-hmm,
could understand from a different lens to say,
mm,
okay, cool. What is it that producers are looking for in SABCs? Can I make this client be on E News or
mm,
ENCA speaking
mm-hmm,
about an engine? You know,
mm-hmm.
how do you develop a story? So
That is
read as
interesting.
much as possible,
Mm,
understand, know what's going on today. You should be
mm,
able to know what's going on today,
mm,
you know.
mm,
Yeah, and create relationships. I think more importantly, again, I will say this, have a vision, know why you're going into that career or into that space.
mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Because it's
That's
not always easy. It's really
mhm.
not always easy.
That's
Yeah.
something that I feel like I
Especially
can
when
take
you,
as. So that's a good points, because it is
I'm
contact.
telling you,
It's contact
especially
based. Look at us now.
when you're
See,
starting
we
out,
have
it's
great
very,
relationships with people. Just continue
yeah.
with that. Yeah.
And when you're starting out, more especially like as interns, it's not the easiest. You do, you must learn as much as possible. Do everything they say you must do.
Yes.
Send press
Yes.
releases. Do,
Yes.
hey, like it's not
Everything,
the
just
nicest,
consume
but like,
what is. Yes, that is true. Which can be
yeah,
such a tricky space, because
yeah,
easily people can take that for granted when they see you trying to be hungry for knowledge and for learning in that space. They can easily be like,
yeah,
oh, okay, I see this one. Let me misuse this positivity that they have towards learning and being a better space. So it's definitely something that you should just be aware of, especially when you're new and coming into to it, because you can easily think, oh no, this is a great opportunity, it's gonna look great on my CV or whatever. But like you said, know your vision, and then it's easier to follow that stream instead of
yeah.
just broadening it up and dabbling here, dabbling there, dabbling there. So that is good. Is there any, I don't think we have questions, right? Is there anything else that you would like to point out or highlight?
No, I don't think of I don't have anything at the moment, but I think it's quite very interesting that what we're going to be seeing in the near future. And I think a whole lot of people, journalists, PR, and everyone who is in this space, they need to jump on these opportunities actually right now and not wait for a certain trend to start. You know what I mean? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
better to start earlier. You know, it's better for you to start if you started podcasts 5 years ago and look at what's happening right now, you know, if you have this edge, this thing in you that tells you like the space that you guys are creating
Yes.
right now, like run with it right now, Mckyla. Like
Mm.
run with your Instagram lives, run out with what's the name of the page? Journalist something in
In
the
the
city.
city.
Just continue doing this. I think it's a very important platform. You know, push it. Don't give up on it.
Mm.
We will follow, we will catch on, you know. Now
Mm.
that I know the platform, a whole lot of my friends and colleagues know the platform. Like just
Mm-hmm.
continue running with it. I think it's just a beautiful space. It's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what we spoke about today,
Mm-hmm.
about like
Mm-hmm.
what's going to be happening. Now when I've got news, I'm going to Mckyla. Now when I need to advertise or need to push a brand, I'm going to Mckyla, or I'm going to Journalist in the City. It's very important and it's very key, this platform that you guys are having. And well done, and I think it's beautiful. The beauty about this is that you all don't have to be in South Africa. I mean, you are in, where are you? In the
I'm in
US.
California.
Someone is in, yeah. Someone is in Bloemfontein, Joburg, and whatever, as a team. It is so great to see the collaboration happening, that we don't really need to be in the same building physically.
It's hard to do it when you're not in the same building, but it's not impossible. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you.
So just keep on doing it. It's exactly what we're talking about, that like even now, like if you want to get your message across in a certain space, in a certain geographical space, you literally physically don't need to be there. You know, just do what you do best, and this is what you do best, and it's so beautiful. Well done to you and the rest of your teammate.
Thank you. I'll convey the message. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I just want to add, what is your podcast? What is the other podcast name, so that we can just put it out there for everyone?
Oh, so the Rustenburg one, it's called Rusty Buggy Podcast, and my podcast, and you can find all of that on YouTube, or I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. Sorry. On LinkedIn as Thapelo Phukuje. So if you go into that space, you'll find a whole lot of my podcasts there. And my one is just Thapelo Phukuje. Really nothing fancy, it's just my name and surname. You find it on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn as Thapelo Phukuje. That's the only place professionally that I've done like a nice.
I haven't touched my LinkedIn in such a long time. Oh, it's horrible actually to see my LinkedIn when last I posted. So well done for keeping that updated. I'll share all this information on our stories as well, and just to recap people that will look at the live a little bit later on. But thank you for creating this space and sitting down with me and chatting about it. And thank you. So we got some compliments. Thank you. I'm happy that we did.
What time is it now, Mckyla?
It's
in
10.
California.
It's 10:38.
10. Listen, I'm struggling with life and all of those things, and I'm
my day.
And I'm like, you look so clear, like it's super clear.
It's the light, please. Lighting makes everything. Okay, it's like, but lighting.
Okay, did you say it's 10:35 p.m. or a.m.?
A.m.
Oh, I'm going to work in the next few hours. You still have like, I think.
I still have a whole Sunday to get through. A whole Sunday. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. We should do another one. We'll do a couple of, we'll like do pop-ups on our stories to see if people have any specific questions, and then maybe we should do like another one after, well, just to recap and see what else is new in the spaces and speak a little bit about trending affairs and topics. But thank you, Thapelo. I appreciate you as always. Thank you guys for tuning into the live. It was really fun. I enjoyed our conversations. I hope you have a good day. Good evening, since your Sunday is basically done.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mckyla. Good morning to you. And yeah, to me, it's bedtime for me, you know.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a lovely one. I'm looking to do more of this anytime. Anytime you need me to, I'm available. You know. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you guys.
You can even do like a practical. Let's just literally. Deliver some news that we need. You know what I mean? Yeah. But thank you, Mckyla. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy. Have a lovely Sunday. And tomorrow is Monday.
Back to work. My office looks a little bit different, but still back to work.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.